Well, I woke up drunk and ratty, with a sword I couldn't swing. Blacksmith's son turned noble fighter, ain't that the funniest thing? Took a bite of stolen sausage, dodged the guards, I rode away. Ain't no spaceship, ain't no jetpack, just a horse to save the day. I ain't mining rocks on Saturn, ain't got neon in my sight. Just a real world full of struggle, every battle's a real fight. It's boots on the ground, steel in my hand, living like a knight in a medieval land. No laser beams, no empty space, just grit, just steel, just a sword to your face. From Scalit's down to Sassau's Gate, this here's a story you can't simulate. Ain't no doubt it's tried and true, nothing beats Kingdom Come To. Oh, Baldur's Gate, you set the bar high, but we're riding right beside, with a story deep as Talmberg's walls and a world that feels alive. No soulless towns, no lifeless stars, just a land that bleeds and breathes. I'd take a broken bow string over NPCs like trees. They shut down Concord, ain't that a shame? But they never had a shot in this medieval game. It's boots on the ground, steel in my hand, living like a knight in a medieval land. No laser beams, no empty space, just grit, just steel, just a sword to your face. From Scalit's down to Sassau's Gate, this is a story you can't simulate. Ain't no doubt it's tried and true, nothing beats Kingdom Come To. A guard with coins I stole, woke up in jail with a lump on my skull. I ain't got no map markers or no easy way out, just a long sword, some armor, and a hell of a bow. So when they ask me what's your game of the year, I'll tip my hat and make it clear. Ain't no spaceship, ain't no pew-pew, just history, combat, and a world that feels true. Ain't no doubt it's tried and true, nothing beats Kingdom Come To.
Welcome everybody. How you doing? How you doing? I'm doing good myself. My face is still sort of chemically burned. I don't know why or how, but you can kind of see it. It's like, see it right there? It's like, I don't know what happened, dude. I don't know what's wrong with me. I work out one day and then my brain is, and my face and everything is all screwed up. I don't know what you're gonna do. Yeah, new studio. Yes, we moved the studio over. I'm still like adjusting stuff, so you'll have to bear with me because I mean this is a process, you know, like we've got to grow together, experiment together. Stuff will have to be changed. The other thing is I don't have the curtains up, so there's a lot of extra light pouring in right now. Normally that will be blocked off, but in the future that will be addressed. So yeah, new studio tour. Yeah, I think once I finish like really getting everything precisely where I want it, we could do that. Because there's still some stuff. I mean, you can see like I've got an extra monitor and some cables and stuff piled up there. Todd's standing darkly behind me. But it's a nice big space. We've got plenty of room. Hold on. Gotta get Todd in there. Does that work? Oh, there you go. You gotta represent Todd. You gotta show him. You gotta show him. There we go. Okay. So it's nice. It's nice. We're getting acclimated to it. But of course, like there's gonna be some adjustments and stuff. It's gonna be good. Why did I move again? So I moved studio spaces because we just finished this room. Previously, this room was just a big concrete pad and an unfinished half of the basement. But the old studio room, which is on the other side of this wall, needs new flooring because the carpet is like, I'm not a floor person. I don't install flooring. What they told me was that it was sub builder grade, which I think is really bad. So they were like, if you go into Home Depot, you could not buy flooring this cheap for what's in there. They're like, it's really bad. So we need to replace it because it's like patchy and falling apart and everything. So I would have to move everything off of that floor anyways. So we were like, oh, well, let's just move the studio and call it good. Call it good. Your floor is a sub? Yeah, and I'm the dom. Yep. Fact check true. What if I do it like this? Is this the play? I don't know. I had to move the mic to the other side, and I don't know how I like it. I don't think I like it. Oh, man. I finally caught you live as a stay-at-home mom who has quite enough drama running around after toddlers. I love your channel, Luke. It's always a good relaxing time tuning into your streams. Thank you, Aaron. I'm glad you're here. Glad to have you. And trust me, I know how exhausting it can be chasing after toddlers because I have two of my own who are quite energetic, we'll say. Yeah, everybody, it looks like everybody's doing good. Everybody's doing good. We are technically the sub. See, Melissa gets it. Yeah. How long did it take you to move all them Legos? Honestly, we probably should have been more careful. We had to take the statue down and move that separately because this thing weighs like 95 pounds or something stupid like that. So I had to move that separately, but then Jacob and I just carried in the shelf with like the Legos on top. Probably should have been more careful, but what are you gonna do? Yeah. Let's see. How funny it would be if CJX is actually everything we wanted the game to improve, but in the end, Ubi still goes under, believes the game anyways. I'm hopeful that it's good, but whenever I hear total overhaul, I'm braced for it to be like, oh no, you broke everything. You know, like it's probably going to be good in the long run, but it might also have some issues. Yeah, Dune Awakening is coming May 20th. They did just announce that. What was the other thing I was going to look at? Oh yeah, Crimson Desert. I know Jor got to go there, so maybe we can poke Jor's brain. I don't think he wants us to react to his video on the preview he just did. So we might have to find someone else's preview to watch, but I don't know. Do you guys know anybody who got the chance to play Crimson Desert recently who had a preview? Does anyone know of anyone? I can try to find it. Myself. Lots of avowed stuff. Nerdwitch, thank you for the 6 months. Hey Luke, I hope you find it well, or I find you well. I can read. It seems they are indeed delaying the AC game so they can downplay Yasuke's gameplay. Nonetheless, I've booked time off. Cannot wait for this game. What's your source on that? I'm like genuinely curious. What makes you think that they're reducing his role in the game? What's the source? Tell me the source. Because I've not heard that. Lonely, thank you for the 2. You seen the new GTA 5 E and E PC port? Yeah, they're bringing all the stuff that they improved for the console versions. They're bringing to PC, which better late than never, I suppose. So I guess I'll take it. But it does feel weird to finally be getting it. Jor's a video, I believe. Yeah, Jor just historically hasn't liked us doing reactions to his stuff, so I want to respect that. Um, ba 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 ba. Do, 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 do. Yes. I'm not sure what you mean, Mike Dara. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I need Crimson Desert so damn bad. Dude, for real. Dude, for real. We can touch on this real quick while we are sifting through stuff. We have the podcast here in a little bit, for one, just so we all know. Just as a heads up. But let's see. I do want to touch on this because where did the tab go? Because we talked about it briefly when we were moving the studio, but then I figured, oh, we should probably like actually just clearly address it real quick. So a couple days ago, there was a story, or I guess technically, news segment. A couple days ago, there was sort of a story that went viral, giga-viral really, where we found out that the quote-unquote director of Marvel Rivals and its whole team were laid off. Oh my God. What the hell is happening? They laid off the entire team behind this amazingly successful game. That doesn't really make sense, which is true. It doesn't really make sense, which should be like the first red flag that maybe that's not the whole story. Because it technically has happened that we've had very successful games that then get the whole team laid off. Think of like Hi-Fi Rush from Tango Gameworks. Took me a second. Sorry, I'm still waking up. So if you think of like that was a very successful game, most critically acclaimed game that Xbox had that year. And then they laid off the entire team and shut it down. It was really, really out of pocket, really bizarre. And everybody was really confused why they did that. And it still is not really clear. It seems like they basically told the team that own them, ZeniMax, and like supervise them underneath Xbox. They told ZeniMax, you got to lay off X number of people by this date. And ZeniMax was like, well, we don't really like managing a company that's in another country on the other side of the world. So we'll just call it good and we'll lay off them. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me because you're like punishing the team that made your most successful game of that year, but whatever. Critically successful game. But this doesn't seem to be one of those instances. For one, you look at the details of the report and of the LinkedIn postings that talked about this, and it basically amounts to like somebody expressing that they got laid off, which absolutely did happen. But when you dig into it, what it seems that happened is that there was, of course, there's a massive team working on Marvel Rivals. It's not just one studio, it's teams upon teams of people. And this was the team out of Seattle that was working on the game. And they were doing a lot of stuff with like level design. They were doing a lot of stuff with like game mode testing. So as you can see, this is Thaddeus. Says, my stellar talented team just helped deliver an incredibly successful new franchise in Marvel Rivals for NetEase, and we're just laid off. Oh well, times are tough all over. Let's find these incredible people new jobs because we all need to eat, right? So during the course of the project, Gary was fantastic to work with. This is a highly technical designer, so you see level design, problem solver, and he basically goes through and lists why you should hire Gary. And he's been trying to help the rest of his team find new roles and new jobs, which I think is great. A great thing for a leader to do, in my humble opinion. But I think what's really, really kind of interesting about this is that it seems as though this is, I'm going to try to adjust this real quick. It seems as though this was, a support team that was helping with certain pieces of the game that have since been largely finished. And so NetEase saw it as an opportunity to lay them off because they're like, oh, we don't need you. They basically treated them as like contracted developers, even though it's an entire team, even though it's a whole thing that they had invested millions and millions of dollars in. NetEase was like, you've done most of the work we needed you for. We're going to lay you all off, which again, I understand why a corporate bigwig would see this as a good idea. Like, we don't need them as much anymore, so let's lay them off and then have the core team in China pick up the slack where they were doing stuff. I can understand how an executive would think that. But I think what ultimately happens is like, if you're trying to attract talent, what's going to happen is that everybody's going to be like, so even if I work on your most successful game, even if I make you billions of dollars, I can still just get laid off because you just thought that, we don't need investments in Seattle. It'll be fine, whatever. Like, it just doesn't seem like a good idea, I think, long term, to like punish even those who helped you on a successful project. Now, I know there's been discussions over, well, maybe they had permanent contracts. Maybe that's why this is a big deal. I don't think they had permanent contracts. I think what this was a team that was being used for support in the lead up to the game's launch. They launched the game, and so now they see it as an opportunity to basically lay them off and move on. Nobody's denying that they have the right to lay off the team. Of course, you run a business, you have the right to fire people and lay them off, but that doesn't mean that we have to like it. And for this, I just think it's a very bad thing to see people who work on an incredibly successful project get laid off. Of course, there's going to be some instances where somebody's work literally is not needed after the game's launch. You know, for example, there's a lot of companies that will hire contractors to do QA work before a game launches. So they're testing bugs, they're testing quest lines, making sure certain things trigger properly, even when they do crazy experimental weird maneuvers and stuff. And that's a very, very normal thing in game development, to have a lot of QA contractors that are only contracted for 6 months before the game launches. And then once the game launches, you don't need them anymore. So they either interview for new positions that are more permanent, or they just get their contract terminated and it expires and they move on. With this, it seems like because it was a team that that NetEase had built, it's not quite as simple as contractors. It's a little bit more elaborate than that, but this also follows in line with what NetEase has been doing for the last year and a half, which has been to lay off a lot of teams and shut down studios and support studios all around the world, because they wanted to basically shrink their foreign investment and refocus all that money into local investments, which is basically, I mean, it's a fancy way of just saying they want to stop spending money overseas when they could just spend it locally and pay people who are willing to work for a lot less money, and keep that all internal to the country. So you can qualify for all sorts of extra government grants if they're offering those and things like that. So it's none of this is really that surprising, unfortunately, when you look at the broader picture, but I still don't like it. I still think if you work on one of the most successful games of the year, I think it's really sucky to fire those people within, what is it, 2 months? I think it launched like 2 months ago. Like, that sucks. That sucks. So it's not like anything's going to happen to Marvel Rivals. The core team over in China is still working on the game. They still have a ton of stuff coming for the game. So nothing's really going to change. Anybody who's acting like, oh, the game's going to go belly up now. No, of course it's not. It's just literally a team they were using to help build the game. The game's out. They feel like they don't need that team anymore. So they have the right to do it, but I still don't like it. You need a cauldron. I agree, man. I agree. Happens a lot after release. Yeah, I mean, typically what happens is that they have a suite of jobs available for people, and the contractors interview, and the contractors often have basically first dibs on a job over outside hires. So if you are a QA developer, or a QA contractor rather, and then you interview for a job in level design or something, and you've got the qualifications and you look like you're going to be a good fit, they'll hire you before they'll hire somebody from outside the company, which I think is a solid way to do it. But in this case, it just seems like, no, you guys are based in the States. The core team working on Rivals is based in China. We don't need your help. We're good. And so they just let them go. They let them go. KCD2's a masterpiece? You're telling me, dude. Oh my God, I love it. Love it. Have you seen Insider Gaming's article on the Cyberpunk sequel? Yeah, I actually have It's not the Insider Gaming article, it's the VGC article on the same topic, but we can talk about that real quick. Ryugawa, thank you also for the sub with Prime, my friend. Thank you. Very generous. Thank you, my friend. Astro Grizzly, sup Luke, sup. Good to see you, my friend. So did this guy over exaggerate the situation to garner sympathy? No, this guy, to be clear, this guy that was expressing the fact that he was laid off, none of this is an exaggeration. It was literally all of the like tabloid gaming websites that took it and said the director of Marvel Rivals has been fired, which it's like he was the director for a team that was contracted to support on the game. It's not like they made it out. A lot of these websites made it out like, you know, Todd Howard has been fired from Bethesda, which is just not what this is. It's just not accurate. So this guy didn't do anything wrong. I mean, he literally is the victim in this situation. He was laid off. He didn't do anything wrong. It was the journalists who took this story and ran with it and exaggerated it to make it sound way more sensational than it really is. Unfortunately, the story is that a support team was laid off and cut because NetEase thought that they didn't need their work anymore because the project was basically done already. And that's it. Like, it really is not that more elaborate or that much more elaborate than that. So yeah, I think it's just, you got to be careful with clickbait. But that's why, like, you have to think about it for 2 seconds. If you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they lay off the director of the game? And then you look into it and it's like, oh, they didn't. They laid off a director of a support studio that's work was done. Okay, so it's not actually that crazy, you know. Yeah. Game journalists have zero integrity. It's all for clicks. I mean, I think the problem is that the term journalist doesn't really mean anything anymore. That's at least my problem with it. Because you hear people say, oh, I'm a game journalist, but all they do is write like chat GPT summarization slop of Reddit threads. Like, it's not actually journalistic reporting. Like, there's very few people I would consider to be journalists in the gaming industry. People who are actually reporting, looking for sources, double checking sources before posting. It's why I typically really like Insider Gaming's stuff, and why it was so surprising that one day that they had it seemed like a contracted writer, somebody who doesn't, like, basically writes articles based on, you know, paid by the word or whatever it is. I don't know how they pay them, but they had a secondary writer working on articles who was just like making stuff up for clicks. And that's why it felt so out of place, and why I called it out. I think it was late last year, I want to say, for AC Shadows stuff that they were just making up. And, you know, I think that's why you have to have the standards. When somebody does that type of thing, you have to fire them and make it clear that that's not okay. And then moving forward, you raise the standard. And you just don't see that very often. You just don't, unfortunately. It's like that other story we talked about where that one YouTuber guy gets one like rando emailing him saying, oh, yeah, no, I have a source. They're going to delay AC Shadows to May. And then it's like hilariously fake. And the guy makes videos on it and pushes it out everywhere because he just bought it hook, line, and sinker because it told him what he wanted to hear. And unfortunately, you see that in the game's journalist sphere as well, where it's not about what's true. It's not about getting 2 sources, 3 sources before you run with a story. It's about what's going to drive clicks, because otherwise we're not going to be able to pay our bills, you know? Todd in the shadows looks like he's about to sneak attack for 2x damage. Yeah, you better believe it. Better believe it. Let's see. Game journos trying to make Avowed seem like more popular and more played than KCD2. I've not seen anything like that, because I don't know how on earth you could possibly make that argument, but who knows? I'm sure they're gonna try. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that though. Real quick mini story before we talk about the Cyberpunk thing. Do you guys remember like Arkham City? You remember how it had amazing physics simulation. Do you guys remember this? It was like, it was one of the most impressive things ever. And I honestly would much prefer really good physics simulation than like cutting edge ray tracing personally. I just greatly prefer that. They had all these games where they were like, ooh, we can simulate water now. And we can simulate physics in games with, where's a better example? There's a handful of examples from like, yeah, the Arkham series where you can like have destructible environments with the physics sim and all sorts of stuff. Well, there's a story that I could not believe, but apparently is in fact true, that because of some of the choices they've made with the new 50 series Nvidia cards, those games very likely will just run better on 40 series cards than 50 series cards, which is unbelievable. But it's because Nvidia has quietly removed support for PhysX in its latest graphics cards. The company confirmed this week after buyers noticed that PhysX games like Borderlands 2 were mysteriously taxing their CPU instead of their GPU and either chugging or failing to work at all. What? Nvidia points to a support page from January.
Nice hanging with you, enjoying the
Ooh,
discussions.
thank you. I'm glad you're here too, Surreal. Glad to have you. Nvidia points to a support page from January where it did say that the RTX 50 series would not support 32-bit CUDA applications, but that page doesn't explicitly mention PhysX, and the company's other PhysX support pages are several years old. Basically, they have, yeah, look at this. Oh my God. Look at this. Batman Arkham Asylum. If you are playing with PhysX turned on, it uses your, on the 4090, it can run with that. But if it has to calculate it through the CPU, it causes horrible frame rate loss. Like if you turn off PhysX, you're getting 350 frames a second. You're doing like really, really well. But God forbid you have anything else. Like this is unbelievable. I cannot believe that they just casually like broke these games for people that would want to run with all of that. Like I'm a little shell shocked. So yeah. I don't know what else to really say. I find it baffling that they would just disable that. Because honestly, is it really that taxing? Like, is it really that demanding? There's no way it's that demanding, right? Like, maybe it is 32 core CUDA application, but what are they really saving by disabling PhysX sim stuff? Like what? Also, apologies. I don't know why my desktop capture is so choppy all of a sudden. It's really frankly weird, dare I say bizarre. We'll try turning it off and on again. That typically can work. Boop. Oh, better. That's better. So anyway, if you were hoping to play any sort of Batman Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City, any of these games, just be prepared. Now it has to run the PhysX stuff on your CPU if you want that turned on. So if you turn on PhysX, it's going to run like absolute crap. Like, look at that. Even on a 4090, it's struggling. Man, Nvidia, what are we doing? This is why I think so much of this stuff comes down to priorities. Like so much of this stuff comes down to priorities. For a lot of these, like Nvidia right now, everything is about AI. You have to use AI in everything. So like all of the upscalers, it's all AI technologies. All of the new texture stuff, it's like, ooh, well, they're neural network enhanced shaders, whatever the crap. When all that, like, I think you'll be way more impactful for games if stuff were focused on dynamics and dynamism and physics sim and stuff like that. I think that has a much more impactful role to play, then ooh, the upscale is a little bit better. Oh wow, you know. Yeah, just go pop in your 980 GPU. Yeah, it probably runs better on that. We need the space for more fake frames, duh. Yeah, I mean, for real. Unfortunately, I really think this year we're just going to see more and more examples of games that are built with the assumption you're going to be using frame generation and everything on. Even in the Monster Hunter Wilds like beta thing that they did, in the initial setup when you like put in, oh, what resolution do you want to run at? All this, it asks you to turn on frame generation, which to me is insane. Like the fact that they're just asking you up front before even doing anything else. Yeah, you should turn on this thing that generates fake frames. That's just crazy to me. But I think that's the new standard. I think nowadays, and especially moving forward, they're just going to keep building games with the assumption that you're going to run with all of this stuff cranked out the ass, and games are going to run worse and worse because you don't have to push it. I know some people, I saw somebody comment on one of our videos we did on it, and they were like, well, it's actually, optimization's not going to be a problem in the future because we're going to have AI tools that can optimize games for you. Which, I mean, maybe, let me say it that way. Maybe that eventually happens. As of right now, the AI tools don't seem to be helping that much with optimization because it's a lot more complicated than like, hey, Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever, can you optimize my video game for me? And then it optimizes it. Optimization in games is like a very complicated process. Sometimes it even comes down to some of the earliest decisions you made when designing the game. Like it's not as simple as like, oh, we just run this program and now it runs well. If it were easy, everybody would do it. So you can't just assume that AI will magically fix the optimization problem, you know? Like that I think is a dangerous assumption to make. Realistically, what I think happens is that you get more and more companies that are told by their executives, hey, you don't need to really spend an extra 6 months optimizing it because that's going to be really expensive. So let's just put it out as it is now. And to hit the frame rates people want, we'll just crank frame generation and all these upscalers, whatever. Yeah, the hardcore gamers will notice, but the average consumer probably won't notice. It'll be whatever. I mean, and I honestly, they're probably not wrong. Like I think a lot of the average players out there are not going to notice the ghosting on the back of a tire when you're playing Mafia 3. Like they're just not. And so why would they spend months optimizing if they don't need to bother with it for the average gamer? You know? Yeah. I turned off DLSS and just run native on KCD2. It looks so much better and runs the same. Yeah, dude, like KCD2 can run natively very, very impressively. And it's so freaking sharp. It looks amazing. I forget who said it, but somebody posted something out there and was like, they were like, oh, I can find, they were like, I ran KCD2 at 1440p and it looks sharper than all these other games I run at 4K upscaled to 4K. And it's like, yeah, because technically the resolution is 4K on these things, but it also is not it's just, there's a difference in sharpness to like smooth things out when it upscales it. It also is kind of blurring things out a little bit, so you lose detail. And some of the newer models, like DLSS 4 apparently is wildly impressive. I've not really gotten the chance to test it or anything, but apparently that's wildly impressive, and is going to be better. But I don't think upscalers are or should be tolerated as a replacement for optimization. And I think that's a slippery slope. Once you allow them to do that, you're never going to get an optimized game from one of these big companies ever again. Yeah. Into the Void, thank you for the sub with Prime. Thank you. Thank you. Behind the Veil, where did you find your keyboards? I want one. They are Keychron Q6s. Keychron Q6. They're fantastic. Luke, did you get any blue screens while playing Avowed? Literally played yesterday, and after about 1.5 hours, it froze my PC entirely. Did I have any PC crashes? I don't think I had any PC crashes. I had game crashes all over the place. I mean, even in the review, I do a live demo of it. But as for whole PC crashes, I don't think I had any. I don't think so. Not that I recall. Black Flag Remake gonna get scrapped if Shadows fails? No, I mean, it apparently is much further along than you might think. So I suspect the Black Flag remake could be coming as soon as like this winter or fall, whatever. Which, I mean, they're not just gonna magically scrap it. And like, I hate to be the bearer of good news for you, but it seems like pre-orders for Shadows are in a good, quote unquote, good spot. They're not like breaking records. It's not in a level of, or at a level of like Valhalla, but Valhalla also launched during COVID. But what they've communicated to investors is that, which is like pretty, I mean, a pretty big deal because they can't lie to investors. Otherwise that's fraud. What they've communicated to investors is that they are pleased with the numbers and the numbers are about in line with Odyssey. But a lot of people would have you believe that like it's tanking. And I mean, maybe day one sales tank, but as of right now with pre-order numbers, they're not bad. Mark, thank you for the 5. I saw your short video on the Smash JT thing yesterday and I haven't laughed that hard in a while and he will not take any accountability. I mean, I don't know the guy, frankly. I've seen, unfortunately, I guess for him, the only times I've seen his stuff is when there's stories like this that break of just dumb stuff that happens. So I'm not familiar with the guy, frankly, but that story is like hard to not laugh at. Another one that's kind of similar is this. Just to share this with you because I think this is really funny as well, so buckle up. Michael posted this. As an old Fable fan, he unknowingly shares an article from 2004. Okay, so let me just show you this. Okay, so Pirate Nation, who's on X and is one of like the biggest, you know, go woke, go broke types, said, as an old Fable fan, I'm starting to get worried about the new Fable. What purpose does it serve mentioning this? And then he highlights a section from the article. We wanted to give the player control of a hero who would adapt to the way they played, who would age, become scarred in battle, who could get tattoos, wear dreadlocks, and a dress if the player was so inclined. He says he's an old Fable fan. You know what's really funny about this? This is not about the new Fable. Somebody sent him a screenshot of that article that he like reposted into this, I'm guessing, because I don't think he pulled up this article. If he pulled up the article himself, he would have noticed why he was like, this was such a mistake. Okay. I think somebody screenshotted this, sent it to him, and was like, oh, look, they're talking about wearing dresses, cross-dressing in the new Fable. It's going woke, whatever. So I think he just retweeted that picture without looking at it and claimed to be an old Fable fan. You know, you want to know what's really funny? You want to know what's really, really funny about this? This is from an article from 2004 that was later updated in 2012. It's the IGN interview discussing the first game in the series, Fable 1. It's straight up. He's saying, as an old school fan of Fable, he's accidentally sharing an article talking about the original Fable game from 20 years ago. And then he posts it and deletes it. Because it's like the ultimate cell phone. Like, if you're just blindly reposting that stuff, then yeah, you shouldn't be surprised when you make stupid mistakes like this. But inevitably, you're gonna see people still pushing that kind of thing out. Like, it's really, really funny to be like, yeah, as an old Fable fan who loved the original games, look at this quote about the new game. Didn't read the article, didn't even pull it up because he would have seen on the like headline, it's talking about the original Fable game. So I think somebody literally sent him a screenshot, highlighted the word dress. He posted this being like, oh, it's gone woke, it's going to be trash. And then doesn't realize that it makes him look like a fool. And it's just like, guys, you got to be a little bit more critical thinking, I guess. Like we got to be a little bit more critical, I think. Because my God, unfortunately, there's stories like that almost every day where you just see somebody that does something that's a cell phone that's really, really stupid. And it's thoroughly entertaining for the rest of us, I guess. Is the dude old enough to be an old Fable fan? I don't know. Most of those guys are like who knows? I think a lot of them, it's more of a cultural issue. It's not about the games. Because I mean, even then they'll try to claim that they are games or that they're gamers and that they know these games. And I'm an old school fan, and they just totally miss it. Like that they're self-owning because they accidentally admit that they don't know what they're talking about, you know. It's the fluoride in the water messing with their IQs. Luke, I'm extremely interested in how Craig and Neil reworked the story layout for The Last of Us Season 2. What are your thoughts? I mean, for one, the most obvious thing is I don't think they can do 6 episodes with Ellie and then 6 episodes with Abby and then 1 episode at the end with both of them. I don't think they can do that. In the base game, you could do that because like it's gameplay and they have different abilities. So it like shakes it up and ooh, Abby plays differently than Ellie. And so there's different things to craft and different things to do. In a show, I'm not sure if that works as well, frankly. So I think that they'll shake it up. I think it's going to be much more in tandem, like a lot more probably flash sideways, like Lost, you know, where it's like, jump cuts between the 2 different perspectives. But I'm guessing that's probably how they restructure it. I would be very, very surprised if they handle it the same exact structure as the game, where it's like, ooh, maybe you see both of them for the first episode or 2. And then just Ellie, and then just Abby for the next 5 episodes. I think that they shake it up a lot more. It's 7 episodes. Okay, so like 3 episodes Ellie, 3 episodes Abby, 1 episode. But also the other thing is, I'm not sure if they've confirmed if this season 2 goes all the way through the end of the second game. Because they've talked about like 3, 4, 5 seasons, which I don't know how you could possibly do that, but that's what they've hinted at doing. So we'll see. Episode 1, Joel. Oh no. Yeah. I had a real hard time playing the game as Abby. No, a lot of people did. I had friends that got to the Abby section and just put their controller down and stopped playing because they're like, nope, I don't. They're like, I know what you're going to do. You're going to try to make me feel bad for her and be like, oh, see, it's just a matter of perspective. Like people knew what they were doing. A lot of people just didn't care. And we're like, no, I don't care. I'm upset she killed Joel and I don't like her and I don't want to be manipulated into liking her. I'm good. And they just put their controller down, which I think is a testament to how well they built the relationship between the player and Joel, that people were that loyal to him, that they were not willing to hear any alternative, perspectives. But I think that also, it's why I've said, I think The Last of Us Part 2 is a really novel, cool, interesting idea for a game. But I think the message would have been much better delivered and received if it were done with different characters in a different IP. Like, I think if they had done an original IP, set it in like a medieval time, and you start the game with this like whole revenge story, and then you flip the perspective and show how it's a revenge story from the other perspective too, that could have worked. But I think choosing to do it with Joel and Ellie and Abby, I think was a mistake, because they kind of underestimated how much people loved Joel and how loyal I think fans would be to him, Let's see. New World, thank you for the 5. That new look is fire. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Nick Hernandez, thank you for the 5 as well. Been a fan since a few months ago and finally got into one of your streams. Have a great day, Luke. Thank you, Nick, and thank you for watching. Glad to have you. Cordell, thank you for the 2. Are you excited for the Iron Man game? Last time I started to get excited for an Iron Man game, it ended up being a VR game that was very quickly forgotten because it was kind of trash. So I'm not going to get excited for much. You know? Oh, the straw cracked. Dude, I'll tell you what. Nothing feels as good on your throat, wording, than a cold, spicy McDonald's Sprite. You know, it's like drinking battery acid. It hits the back of your throat and it feels like somebody's rubbing sandpaper against it and it just burns and it's so good. There's nothing quite as good as a McDonald's Sprite. Just telling you what. It's not the same out of a bottle. It just isn't. It just isn't. And I don't care what anyone says about it. I don't care what anybody says about it. I want banana milk. Did you? Okay, you just baited me into saying I want banana milk. God damn it. God. You got me. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. Also, Yaluvki, thank you for 6 months. Ooh, baby, over on Twitch. Thank you. Let's talk about this real quick. New segment for the masses. Hold on to your asses. So this story's been making the rounds. People have asked me about it because they want to know what I think about it, which is cool. To a certain extent, it's kind of like, it's one of those no duh kind of articles, you know, where it's like, no duh, of course they're trying to do that. It's like when you hear a game director say, or maybe the better example, it's like when Apple has an event and they're like, this is the best phone we've ever made. And you're like, I would hope so. It's the newest one and you're charging the most for it. It better be the best phone you've ever made. It's a similar thing with this. We're like, ooh, did you hear that they're going to try to make the most realistic crowds in any video game? I'm like, no duh. Like they better be trying to make the best ones. You would think, you know. But what's interesting about this specifically is the fact that it's coming from job postings. And so they're looking to hire people. So basically, if we just run through this really, really quickly, CD Projekt has recently posted a series of job openings for the upcoming RPG, which gives the first indication of the ambition of the project. While job postings and listings are rarely completely accurate reflections of the finished games, one note in the listing for a lead encounter designer points to one of the milestones CD Projekt is looking to reach during development. Among the daily responsibilities, successful applicants will be expected to, quote, work in close collaboration with the systems design team to create the most realistic and reactive crowd system in any game to date. Interesting. It's unclear if this refers to something like Red Dead 2's conversation system, wherein every NPC could be spoken to, or if the developer is simply looking for more realistic general reactions to player actions, which would be something like, you know, you're walking down the street and you fire your gun and then you see everybody duck and run. That's like a reactive system. What I hope this is, and this has been something that was reaffirmed, I think, with KCD 2's success, having NPCs that live in the world, I think is awesome. And I love that. But I understand sometimes it's not practical. But what we've seen is maybe the best comparison would be between Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Assassin's Creed Shadows. Because with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, all of the NPCs have schedules. They all have like places where they live, where they sleep. You can follow guards home or to their barracks, and before they go to bed, they'll take off their clothes and armor, put them in their chest at the end of their bed, and then go to bed in whatever, a nightgown. And you can follow them around. Like there was even, you know, people just recently realized that you can follow, like if the maybe shopkeeper, the grocer at a small village, he lives in this house. When you wake up in the morning and you go to try and buy something from him, oh, he's still in his house. You can look in through the window and see him eating breakfast with his family. And after he finishes breakfast, he will get up and then go to work when you can interact with him. Like, they have schedules and routines and they do stuff together. And it makes it way more immersive. It makes it work way, way better, I think. And I love that. I love those little details. And it makes the world feel much more real, much more alive and immersive. And Assassin's Creed used to do that. In Assassin's Creed Origins, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you could, and I'm not joking, you can try this yourself if you have the games. Go download them and try it. You kill a guard and then you leave. You can, pop the bird up, watch them, whatever. But you kill a guard and then you get up and you leave. And once, your anonymity is regranted, guards will find the body, stop looking for you, give up, and they'll collect the bodies. They'll pick them up and carry them outside the castle walls, and they'll put them in a pile, all the dead bodies, where somebody later comes with a wagon to pick up the bodies and move them over to be buried. They also all have their own routines. They all have places where they go to sleep in the camp. You might remember in Origins, there's a whole system and mechanic where Bayek might have an assassination target, but that target only moves from Alexandria down the Nile River to this other city at nighttime. And so you have to wait till night and then follow him as he walks in real time from Alexandria down the Nile. And it made it really immersive because the world was literally living. Like, you had all of these different things simulated where all these NPCs and characters were off doing their own things. And what we've seen with Shadows is that they've removed that. They've removed it. Which, frankly, I don't like. When I was at the preview event, I asked the game director, Jonathan Dumas, the creative director, about this. And he had reasons for individual pieces. So he said, for example, the reason that they removed the burying thing where they collect the bodies. Imagine you're playing Shadows, you assassinate a guard or a samurai or something, and then they collect the bodies and move them into a pile to then be taken away to be buried. He's like, culturally, that would not have been done. That would have been considered really disrespectful, and we wouldn't want to do that. So we cut that out and we removed that. As for the day-night cycles, having NPCs go to bed, having their full routines and all that simulated, he said it just wasn't that practical, especially because with the weather systems, there's already so much to factor in. It just was really complex and wasn't really working. It wasn't coming off to players that well, so we removed that as well. So he had reasons for stripping all this out. But even if there's reasons to do something, it doesn't mean that I have to like what you chose to do, ultimately we're making a video game. You can change things based on any number of stimuli. And in this case, I think stripping down NPC complexity, I think is not where we should be going. I think the success of KCD2 reaffirms that people love immersion in open world games. When they get it, they get excited. They love it. But you have to take those steps, and it is complex, and there is a lot of headaches involved with it, I'm sure. I can only imagine how complicated it is to get something like that working. But I think as we move into the next era of open world games, we should be pushing for more of the KCD2 style of things, where things are simulated and realistic, where NPCs are living and breathing and behaving the way you would expect them to, and away from the more arcadey stuff. I understand not every game is going to be for everybody. Some people like the more arcadey, the more gamified stuff where things are not simulated super realistically. The way one commenter put it, I think it was in response to the KCD2 video thing we did. I think it was that one. Basically, somebody commented and was like, honestly, I don't like really realistic NPCs. It makes me feel bad for killing them. Which I thought was such a funny and interesting thing to say. It's like, if it's more realistic, I'll be too immersed, and then I might feel bad for killing a guard in cold blood or something. And I was like, isn't that a really cool thing, though? That even though it's just zeros and ones, none of this is real. Because of the how immersed you were, you started to emotionally empathize with NPC. Like, I think that is a testament to the immersion and why that's a really impressive and good thing that they should keep doing, because it can lead players to situations where they will behave less in a psychopathic way and be behaving more in a way appropriate for the world that they've built. But, you know, I can understand how maybe somebody's like, you know, oh, I just want to play the game. I don't want to have to think about all that. I just want to be a murder hobo. Like, okay, I guess turn off your brain. But I think that that level of immersion is a remarkable thing that only video games are really able to do in that, to that degree. And I think that that's something that we should encourage and praise when we see it. And it's actually, it brings me, you know, to some of the newer games, as we see with this one. You know, they're pushing for immersion. They're pushing for more realistic sim. And one of the games, you know, that I'm sure we're going to see amazingly realistic simulations of is GTA 6. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have crazy stuff in there. Even with Red Dead Redemption 2 compared to GTA 5, things were way more immersive. So I can only imagine what they're going to do in GTA 6. Like, the running joke is in GTA 6, you just run everybody down with your car. You know, like, people people don't take it that seriously, I guess. You know, they I think people can largely disconnect. But if GTA 6 has the same level of NPC, or likely better NPC simulation than Red Dead 2 did, I think you could see some really interesting things where player styles to just be totally insane might not be the same with GTA 6 compared to GTA 5. I think players might approach the game much differently, which will be interesting. Shrinking horse balls was worth all the data and crunch, I'm sure. It's all the details, man. It's all the details. Just that, though, that I remember that went viral. And just that going viral could have led to a bunch of extra sales. It's one of those things where, like, something goes viral and you pause and you ask, wait, is that a good thing? Like, why am I excited for that? Why does that make the game worth buying? But it's enough. It's enough that people talk about it, and then it passes through, like, the zeitgeist once more, and then people eat it up. AZ, thing of the 5. Do you really think GTA 6 won't play in 60 FPS? No, I'd be like shocked and stunned if it runs at 60 FPS on console. Yeah. Let's see. CDPR got huge funding from Polish government for realistic crowd systems for Cyberpunk. So yeah, don't hold your breath. Yeah. It's one thing I don't personally love about video games is government involvement. I understand that there's grants that come in where they throw money at these studios to help with development of stuff, but I personally don't like the government involved in my hobby. So I understand some games can't be made without government funding, but I'd say the good ones will find a way. You know, like Dustborn was built primarily with grants from governmental bodies and like all sorts of initiatives from the EU and stuff. So like if we cut that governmental funding, I think the industry will be okay. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll manage. Yeah. TTS is text to speech. So if you send in a super chat of 10 or more, it will read your super chat to me. So I have to respond immediately. You know? Let's see. I read that one. Cool Pandas, thing of the 2. I'm looking forward to Bigot sandwiches. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Now I'm not sure when you would have sent that, so I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Trenton, think of the 5. Updated list of your favorite dev studios after KCD2. Also, should CryEngine be used more than UE5 after seeing how stable KCD2 is at launch? More talk KCD2. CryEngine is really good. The version they're using at Warhorse is really good for that type of game. It's really good at like diffuse materials. It's really good at exteriors. It's really good at foliage density. It's really good at forests and fields and stuff. That's when it's really good. So it's been tailored for their specific use case. Whereas Unreal Engine might be tailored for other use cases and other very specific types of games. So I think it should be used for more games like that. But, you know, there's no ultimate game engine that can just do everything perfectly well. There's a bunch of game engines and a bunch of different tools that are very specifically calibrated for different things and have been built for different things. And sometimes it can be, you know, worked on and have new features added to make it better at this or better at that, you know, and enhanced. But yeah. Oh, Bigot Sandwich is the line in Last of Us 2. Oh, yeah. Yeah, when the old guy comes up. Yeah. Oh, dude, that's a throwback. That's a throwback. Wow. Okay, you're totally right. Glowing with style. Let's see. Jay Vibin, thank you for the 5. If a reviewer gets flown out by a studio for a preview and the reviewer's impressions are too harsh, will they stop flying that reviewer out? I think it depends. Ideally, no. Theoretically, no. But there's certainly been instances where if somebody is repeatedly negative towards a company, eventually the company might be like, okay, well then why would we keep inviting you to stuff? So I think eventually it could get there. But like, I called Ubisoft's last Assassin's Creed game Valhalla. Hold on.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I called that game a travesty of open world design. Like, I loathe Valhalla as an open world game. I think it's atrocious in so many ways. But even then, Ubisoft will still invite me to a preview for Shadows. They'll still talk to me about like AC Shadows, like opportunities for reviews and stuff. Like, I've not been the kindest. I've openly called for their CEO to be fired. Like, I know people laugh and meme that like Luke's a Ubisoft fanboy, but like, I've not been that gentle with them. And even then they will still come and invite me to stuff, which I think has you know, that's counts for something, because there's been plenty of other companies where we've struggled to get in contact, or where we say one thing we don't like and then all of a sudden they stop responding. Interestingly enough, like EA has gone totally silent since Veilguard. I don't know why. All of our contacts at EA are very quiet all of a sudden. I have no idea why. So I mean, that might be an example of that type of thing happening. It might also just be that they decided to pivot away from YouTubers and just focus on marketing to TikTokers, which does seem to be a new trend.
Mr. NP character donated $10 through Super Chat.
Booyah!
Glad you didn't drop the Titanic. Love the new space.
Thank you, my friend. I almost did, and actually one of the funnels popped off. I had to put it back on and reattach it, but yeah, I barely made it. Barely made it. Thank you, my friend. Very generous. $10. Thank you. Yeah, again, guys, that's an example of the text-to-speech. If you send a super chat of $10 or more, it does text-to-speech. Only time when that doesn't apply is like the podcast. We have it turned off for obvious reasons, but you know. Yeah, anyway, Jay, it's a fair question. I think, you know, nobody's entitled to review codes. Nobody's entitled to a preview event. Nobody's entitled to anything. If they don't want to invite me or anybody else or anybody, cool. That's totally fine. I think the reason matters ultimately. I think blacklisting people for being critical is not a good move. But if they think that you're not engaging in good faith, then sure, like, don't bother. Like, I don't think it's unfair if Ubisoft decides not to invite like Grums to an AC Shadows preview event. Like, I think that's totally fine if they don't want to if they don't want to invite him, you know. I think we'd all understand that. How does it feel to know that Dan Vavra is a Luke enjoyer? Yeah, dude, he watches the stuff. Who knows? Maybe he's watching right now. You never know. Fan of his work though. Cordell, thank you for the 5. Garrett, thank you for the 5. Isn't that, oh, I scrolled too far. Isn't that what The Last of Us Part 2 was going for? Yeah, I think it's what it was going for. I just don't think it worked that well. Daniel
Andre Verkland donated 200 Norwegian kroner through Super Chat.
Booyah.
Just wanted to give you something. I've watched you for some months now and I like what you're doing. Keep it up. I'm off to see my grandmother for some coffee. Have a good one, smiley face.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, my friend. Yes, you be safe on your coffee travels. And thank you for watching. Much love. Thank you. Thank you. And tell your grandmother I say hi. She won't understand what it means or what you're talking about, but I think, that would be sweet. Luke Stevens says hi. What? What are you talking about? He just says hi. I don't know. Skillup got blacklisted from Bethesda. I don't think his reviews are personal. Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with him getting blacklisted. What I know is that I called Bethesda Game Studios evil, and I said what Todd did with Fallout 76 I thought was evil, because I'm like, I don't know what else to call it when you know that this product is broken and you still sell it to your customers knowing that it's broken because it's going to be a big payday for you. Like, I don't know what else to call. And then like they continued even after that to scam their audiences. Like, I don't know how else to describe it than like evil and scummy, like it just was. And after that, for like 5 years after that, we could never get a hold of Bethesda. We could never get a hold of people within ZeniMax. We were on like a no-fly list for them. And then somehow my manager worked some magic and got us a hold of somebody over at Bethesda for Starfield. And there were a lot of Bethesda fans that were very upset that Luke got to review Starfield, but that's just how it works, man. Let's see. Isn't that okay? I did read that one. AZ thing for the 5. Do you really think GTA 6 won't play at 60? Oh yeah, I did reply to that one. Yeah, I'd be stunned if it runs at 60 on console. I do not think it will. Seth, thank you for that super chat. Luke also responds to $2 chats. Glowing in style. Yes, absolutely. Hashtag glowing with style. Cured Madness, thank you for the 5. Did you find Let Me Solo Her in KCD2? It's funny you mentioned that because I actually have an entire thread that Synth made where he goes through a bunch of the Luffy Straw Hat. He goes through a bunch of the little bitty Easter eggs and stuff that were found in the game. So yeah, there's a bunch. There's a bunch. Which is really cute. Oh, the hidden Dark Souls bonfire. I didn't see this one. That's cute. There's a bunch, dude. There's all sorts of stuff. Puss in Boots. You can find a cat with a sword. Fallout reference. War never changes. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Insidious became a show-off member. Booyah. Thank you, my friend. That's tremendous. Thank you. Mr. NPC character. Oh, yes, I read that one. Thank you again. Very, very generous. And then, yeah, okay, we're caught up there. Tovi, also thank you for subbing with Prime over on Twitch, my friend. Thank you. Insane. Luke, do you not like The Last of Us Part 2 anymore? You have a 5-hour video calling it a masterpiece. Yeah, I think based on that video, granted it's been years since I made the video, I do think it's a masterpiece technically and in terms of like gameplay presentation, everything they did with that. I think it would have been way more effective because ultimately like there's looking at it in a vacuum and then there's looking at it in the context of its performance and the reception to it. And I think if you're trying to tell a story that's to like aiming to get people to think more empathetically and be like, ooh, it's all about perspectives and there's two sides to every story. If 50% of the people that engaged with your story hate you after trying to engage with it, something went wrong. Like it clearly was not as effective. You'd hope if the story is delivered in the proper way and presented in the right way, that it will connect with people and people will like 95% of them will be like, oh yeah, I totally get what they're saying. And I thought that was really profound. But instead, like 50% of people hate it and are livid about it. So I think it could have been done better. Even if I connected with it and I understood what they were doing and I liked like the gameplay and the presentation of those parts of it, I still think that it would have been way more effective if they had delivered it in a different way with a different IP, for example. Yeah, BBO, to be fair, yeah, I think you're right. It's probably not 50%. A very vocal minority had it. Yeah, I mean, it was the most awarded game in history, I think, until Baldur's Gate 3 took that. So I think you're right. It wasn't 50% of players. But I mean, I know for a fact that there's, at least anecdotally for me, there's plenty of people that tried playing the game, got to the Abbey parts, were like, I'm good. And with that, like, I think they missed out on something that would have otherwise been a pretty remarkable experience if they had stuck with it. But I also totally understand why they didn't stick with it, frankly. Ray Flew, thank you for the sub with Prime, my friend. Thank you. Let's see. 50% of players who discuss games online aren't the majority of total players, though, to be honest. Roughly sold 15 million units by now. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I think it's... and the other piece of this, too, is that there were a lot of people that were not hating on The Last of Us Part 2 because of what it was as a video game. There were a lot of people hating on it for more political reasons. There were a lot of people that were hating on it because it was leaked, and it ended up being false. People, like, the first leaks were saying that Abby was like trans, and they're like, oh, they have a trans person killing Joel, your favorite character, and they make you do it and swing the golf club to kill him. And it's like none of that ended up being true, except that Joel died. Like, everything else was not accurate. And so there definitely were a lot of people at the time that were freaking out about it who probably didn't play games and were just latching onto it. Similar to other things going on in the industry even now. Okay, should we talk about this before we do the podcast? Let's do this. New mini segment. So in the age of mass layoffs and restructurings and things, what is one thing you could do that would just universally feel a little bit out of touch? How about releasing an early look at an AI model that can generate video of video games that don't exist, that can then be used in theory to build games and cut out the need for concept artists, game designers, and stuff like that, because you have an AI model that can just generate clips of a game that looks really cool and fun. Well, that's what Microsoft has done. They revealed something called Muse. Now, Muse is an AI model that can generate minutes of cohesive gameplay from a single second of frames and controller actions. So it's the first world in human action model, a WAM, and the scale of training is mind-blowing. Trained on 1 billion gameplay images. That's not actually that impressive. Used 7+ years of continuous gameplay data. I'm not sure what data means, but okay. And then learned from real Xbox multiplayer matches. Basically what they did is, this is one of the things that Ninja Theory has been working on. Ninja Theory being the guys that did Hellblade Senua's Saga, and they also worked on a big live service game that everybody's collectively forgotten about called Bleeding Edge. This thing, Bleeding Edge was like an absolute dumpster fire. It lost players immediately. It flopped very hard. It was like Concord before Concord, but nobody remembers this. Like, this was the same guys that did Hellblade, Senua Saga, and then Senua's Sacrifice. Like, these are the same guys, and this is what they were doing before they moved on to Hellblade 2, which in my opinion ended up being like laughably short and underwhelming. But this is what they were doing before. They were working on another live service, like shooter, whatever the hell this is. And so this team, Ninja Theory, worked with this project with Bleeding Edge on training this AI that Microsoft has been working on. And now, as you can see, the goal is for it to take a single second of gameplay and then controller inputs, and then Muse, the AI, can create multiple unique playable sequences that follow actual game physics, mechanics, and rules. The version shown in research was trained on just a single game, which was Bleeding Edge. And so the idea is you could train it on other games like The Witcher 3 or something, and then have it then go and generate more clips of potential gameplay from that. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell is the point of this? Like, why not just go take a clip from Twitch? Fantastic question. I don't have an answer, but we'll move on. He continues, we're watching the beginning of a major shift in how games are created. Game development traditionally takes months or years of character design, animation, and gameplay testing. Scaled up models like Muse could eventually compress this cycle from months to minutes. And Microsoft's research is published in Nature today. They'll be releasing Muse's model weights, training data samples, and sharing the testing interface. Another win for open source. Hot take, we'll see the first truly AI-assisted indie game hit the top 10 on Steam within 18 months. Not because AI makes better games, but because it lets creative people iterate 100 times faster. Elon seems to agree, debuting X's gaming studio this week, which is true. Elon's going to try to make an AI game studio. Whatever that means. I honestly don't know what AI game studio means. I don't know if that means that it's just a game studio that uses Grok to help with coding. I don't know if it means that they literally let the AI do everything. I have no idea what AI game studio means, but I'm honestly not sure what the practical application is of something like this, because it seems like you train it on a game and then put in inputs and then it generates that. Is the idea that eventually this would just replace the game itself? Like, you don't actually have a video game, you have an AI that's presenting like a dynamic version of the video. Like, I don't know what the actual implication is or use of this. George responded to this kind of funnily. He's a toy designer, ZBrush digital sculptor. Said, wow, all this needed was one, an entire existing fully developed and released video game, and two, the equivalent of 7 years of continuous human gameplay data to train on, all to produce a 300 by 180 pixel approximation of a game that looks and functions much worse than the original. Which is true. Now, Xbox actually did respond to this directly. Wario has a screenshot of it. They said, although it's still early, this model research is pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible. We're already using Muse to develop a real-time playable AI model trained on other first-party games, and we see the potential for this work to one day benefit both players and game creators, from allowing us to revive nostalgic games to faster creative ideation. Maybe the idea is that you could put into Muse like a game like The Witcher 3, but with the slower movement of Red Dead Redemption 2. And then I also want to have alien invasions, and I think instead of horses, everybody's riding on unicorns. And then it does its thing. You plug in your controller and then you play, and it has like a low resolution version of that, so you can see if that could maybe work. Honestly, I still don't really know how this would be helpful. But okay. Today, countless classic games tied to aging hardware are no longer playable by most people. Thanks to this breakthrough, we're exploring the potential for Muse to take older back catalog games from our studios and optimize them for any device. We believe this could radically change how we preserve and experience classic video games in the future and make them accessible to more players. So you have the AI train on the game, and then it can basically just mimic the game and present like an alternative version of it that is available to modern people. Wouldn't it just be easier to provide like the ROMs and then like port it? I don't understand. Again, I just don't understand what this does uniquely. I'm missing a big part of this because they're acting like this is a major breakthrough. Can somebody smarter than me or more in tune with the AI stuff explain to me why this is like so impressive? Because it seems to me like they trained an AI model on 7 years of user data, and they are now able to create little clips that look worse than the original game. I don't understand. It lets you resell things that already exist. Oh. Oh, that makes sense. It's all coming together now. To imagine that beloved games lost to time and hardware advancement could one day be played on any screen with Xbox is an exciting possibility for us. Another opportunity we're exploring is how Muse can help game teams prototype new gameplay experiences during the creative process and introduce new content, taking games players already love and enabling our developers to inject new experiences for them to enjoy, or even enable you to participate in the creation process. We'll create opportunities for people to participate in this exploration, starting with short interactive AI game experiences for you to try on Copilot Labs very soon. There's still so much for us to discover, and we can't wait to share more. They're framing it as gameplay ideation, which to me, again, makes me think like you put into it like The Witcher 3, but Geralt has a hoverboard, and then it creates a blurry version of that you can play and see how it feels. And then if it's good, then you go and actually build it into the game. I think that's what they're saying is like the ultimate goal. As for like game preservation, again, I don't know why you don't just preserve the game. That to me seems better. Prototyping basically, yeah. But my understanding from this is that it's not actually creating a prototype. It's creating like a video output. And that's based on gameplay inputs you're doing. Or maybe they mean that this also can run in real time. From a single second of gameplay and controller inputs, Muse can create multiple unique playable sequences that follow actual in-game physics, mechanics, and rules. So they put in like the initial footage, bunch of different variations, and then make it consistent. Yeah, it might just be like, okay, what if we had a playable character in Marvel Rivals that only moves with backflips and can transform into a snake, and then it generates that, and it's like, oh, that could work. Call him Slime Boy. Maybe that is all there is to it, but I do still feel like I'm missing the ultimate vision. They did it basically just because they could. I mean, I'm sure there is eventually an application this could work for. Like, eventually. I just don't know what it is. Like, I do think that AI can save tons of time in development. I mean, even something like using an AI to create concept art. I can see how that would save a lot of time. Like, I get the application. I get why they want to use that. With this, I don't see how this saves them time. Like, I guess you can generate a few minutes of gameplay with like a tweaked gameplay system, so you can kind of see. But so much of gameplay is tied into how it actually feels and works when you're playing the game. And having this, I don't think would actually give you that, you know? No, I don't like that. I didn't say I like it. I said I get it. Like, I understand why they're doing it. So, because there's a difference between understanding why they're doing something and liking what they're doing, you know? I can understand why somebody's breaking into a store and stealing the like electronics that aren't protected under like the steel cages. I understand why they're doing that because it's really easy for them to do that. I don't like that they're doing it. I don't think they should do that, but I understand why they ended up doing that. You know what I mean? It's a rough analogy. As software engineer, I see a lot of bad, unsafe, unoptimized code generated using AI. It's going to be rough years with CEOs pushing it to cut down costs using AI. Yeah. Well, especially when the broader thing is like, well, AI can shrink costs. We can just do that. People can just do that. I don't know. Also, real quick, while I have all of you here in chat, I'm going to post a link in both chats here on YouTube and on Twitch. I want you to sign up for my newsletter. Okay, we're just doing this. The Luke Stevens team, we're just pushing this. It is a newsletter where every week we're going to go and post like news roundups. I offer a snippet that I write about something that happened in the industry that week. And so that we can go through all of that. So if you read it one week, awesome. If you skip it the next week, no worries. But if you sign up, you at least get it in your inbox every week, which is cool. What a horrible sound. The straw cracked. I'm sorry. Oh no, Luke's Luke's joining gaming journals. Oh no. Oh no. Multi undertone. Thank you for the 2. It's impressive because they need you to think it is. Oh, I see. Surya Prakash. Prakash. I'm so sorry. Thank you for the 2. I have never understood the hate Last of Us 2 got. Yeah, I mean, I think if you were in the bubble that got the wave of attacks, then it's unfortunately you're familiar. But if you were able to dodge it, that's awesome. Corbin, thank you for the 2. Make human, make Concord good. AI, not possible. You put it into the Muse AI. It's like, can you make this more dynamic with better gameplay and better character designs? And it's just like, no. Or you put the footage in, and just looking and analyzing the footage causes the server farm to melt and explode. That would be a little funny. Okay. We've got the podcast here, fam. Ray Flu, thank you for the sub again. I think I already shouted that out, but still, thank you once again. Let's see. What was the decision of linking your Prime with Discord again? Subs and memberships. We are building out the Discord, so we're still doing that. There's a couple things behind the scenes we have to sort out, which I wish I could be more clear about and talk about, but yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, but yeah, we are working on that. Okay. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do, fam. We've got the one and only Joe Raptor coming on the podcast here in just a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna hop out, and we are going to go and set up for the podcast. I'm gonna be back in like 5-10 minutes, and we're gonna do the podcast talking with Jor. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. Over, whoops, did I break something? I think I broke something. Let me copy the link there. Boop, 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 boop. Let me post it over here. On Twitch, you can stay put. On YouTube, here's the link to the new event, okay? There you go. Hop over there. We're going to talk there in just a minute, and I will see you soon, okay? Much love. See you in a second. Mwah. Until then, my friends.